Okay. So let's look at some focus stacking that you guys been doing, and guess we'll start with you, Alan.
Okay.
Yep. I left this one up from last week, fine art class, because I don't think anybody here saw it.
Oh, okay.
Just so you guys can see that one.
So if I remember right, this is about 15 images
Okay,
in there. So
all right.
it was done with a 105 macro lens at
Mhm.
2.8, and yeah, if
And Photoshop was okay handling it? Did you go through
no,
Lightroom to set it up?
no, I did it all in Photoshop. I brought it. I went through Lightroom, but then exported it into layers in Photoshop and blended it in there.
Right, so basically you start in Lightroom, you select all the pictures
Yeah.
in sequence, and then you do edit in, and then at the bottom of that menu, there's layers in Photoshop.
That's right. So you just select the layers, open in layers in Photoshop, and
Mhm.
it puts them all in there, and then you select all the layers, and then you make sure that they're all in alignment,
Right, you do the
and
auto,
then
yeah.
yeah, and then afterwards you blend them. Now the one question I have for you, Sandy, on the process is at the end of it puts that image out. But what I've been doing is I've been flattening that image after it's been processed so I can put it back into Lightroom. And I don't know if that's the right thing to do or not.
Yeah, that's fine. The only thing it does though, sometimes it'll save it. Well, if you leave it as a PSD, it'll save it as a new image. But if you leave it as whatever it brought it in as, well, you can't do it at raw, but like if you saved it as TIFF or something else, sometimes it'll step on the image if it's not a raw image.
I didn't really want to save it the way I was expecting it if you didn't flatten the image. So
Well, you can 15. Yeah, you can save it with all the layers on it, and it'll do that, and it will keep it as long as when you're in Lightroom. When you want to go to Photoshop, you can do one or two things. If you're in Lightroom, you say open as original instead of as a copy, and then it won't flatten it. The second the other way you could do it is if you're in Photoshop, you can go in your file menu and say open recent, and you can find it there, and then you don't have to go to Lightroom at all.
okay.
If you want to do a little more to it and then save it back into Lightroom just so you have it in your catalog.
Yeah.
Yeah, gets a little confusing, but
Anyway, you have to make sure you pick the right spot before you start doing this focus stacking, because otherwise you'll be at it.
that's
Quite
critical. That's
yeah.
critical. So you want to find what the nearest spot is to start with. And I think one of the ways, at least in the old days, is I switched to manual. And I used to have to step through it because they didn't have a focus stacking option in the camera set. But you'd focus, toward the near side as much as you could to see until everything was out of focus. And then you'd slowly move it back until the first thing that came into focus was there. And then you'd start there.
Yeah.
You know.
More or less the same kind of thing. I
Uh-huh.
actually used autofocus. I put it right down right to the very smallest pinpoint thing.
Right.
And then I picked out one of the pedals, but then I also zoomed in so you can zoom in before you actually select the focus point. So
Yeah, you can zoom in as long as it's all still in there. And you also, I think on your Nikons, you have that magnifier so you can focus.
that's right. That's what I mean. Yeah, the
Yeah.
magnifier.
Oh, that kind of zoom in, not physical zooming the lens. Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty important. And then another thing, if you can do it, is to tether to a bigger screen, or after you do it, go to your computer, put the card in and take a look at the first and look through all of them, make sure everything that you wanted in focus is sharp. And if it's not, adjust accordingly. You may
Yeah.
need more steps. You may need to focus on something that's actually closer than you thought it was, and you picked the wrong thing. You know,
Well,
whatever you need to do to get it.
I took some extra steps. So I went to the very end of the run and
Mhm.
and had a good look to see if there was anything in that, and then I just deleted these ones until I came across the right one.
Yeah, yeah, then that can happen too. Sometimes you'll overshoot it. So by the time, it's already focused through everything you want, and then it's starting to focus on the background or
Yeah.
nothing. Nothing's back.
Yeah.
But the most critical part is getting your focus on that furthest, the closest thing to the camera. And the second thing is to make sure you're within the minimal focus of the lens, because if
Yeah.
you're close, it'll never focus to the closest.
Yeah.
Get in so close that you gotta manually focus it, it won't work.
Yeah, yeah.
So where did he focus on that little carnation down?
Well, I did not focus on that carnation at the bottom. I was actually focusing on that kind of orange daisy
So somewhere in here.
right there. Yeah, right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. And consequently, this got a little soft, so maybe
Yeah.
this is a little closer.
And I wasn't too worried about that, to be honest.
No, I think your primary, and it's all according to your taste, but for me, I think this is a major part that
Yeah.
should be sharp anyway, and it's kind of nice that this stuff falls off a little bit, so it's not competing so much.
But if you zoom in on this, the textures are just amazing. The clarity,
Yeah,
pretty pleased with it.
yeah, yeah.
Focus.
What was your question, Pat?
F-stop? What was his F-stop?
Do you know what your f-stop is on this?
2.8.
2.8. Yeah, so you probably could have gone a little sharp, like, 2.8 is wide open,
Yeah,
so you probably could have gone 5.6, like a couple.
could have, yeah.
Yeah,
I
usually,
know that would give you a greater depth of field, but
well, you
so-
want a sweet spot of the lens, so
Yeah.
generally it's 2 stops from wide open. It may differ a little bit, but I'd start with that and see what happens.
okay.
The other thing is you want to keep your exposure at manual so it doesn't adjust and
Nice.
change while it's zooming through your images, so they all look and are the same exposure.
Manual ISO.
Yeah, manual ISO, manual shutter, manual f-stop, everything manual. So
Preferably
first
a
you need to
little.
get an exposure, you do that automatically and then just shift to manual and use the same settings. So once you establish what your focus is and your histogram looks good, and your exposure and everything else is fine, and you know where the start point is, then you go to manual everything except your autofocus. Then you set up your focus stacking. And on Canons, you got to put it on, rather than single shutter, you got to put on multiple. So when it goes, you don't have to hit the shutter each time. It'll just run through it automatically. On Nikon, I believe you just set it up. You don't have to
Yeah.
do, yeah.
You just
And then you do Nikon, you do-
select it, it does it itself.
just does it, yeah, yeah. And it's very quick. Now, I don't know if you guys looked at any of those video links I sent you, but what a lot of people are doing is they're hand holding them and doing them out in nature.
I was going to try that, but I just don't see that working.
It'll work if things aren't real windy, if it's a pretty calm day, and it'll also work if you don't have anything moving in the shot. Like a bee or a person or
Yeah.
a car going by or something like
High
that.
shutter speed.
Yeah, yeah. And well, even with the high shutter speed, it's gonna move from shot to shot. So
I mean, for hand holding, but
yeah, you probably should go 200 or more for hand holding. So just each individual shot, depending on what well, if it's 100 macro, yeah, 200 should probably be enough. At least you can go higher, especially if you got a lot of light. Also in those videos, they were showing the old way of doing it before you had the focus stacking built into the camera, where you could actually rack the focus. So basically you focused on the closest thing, you started the firing and then just racked it out, to infinity or wherever. And then you just looked at your images at the end. And when it got to the point where everything was in focus that you wanted, everything beyond that that you shot, you just throw away. You don't put it in the stack.
Hmm.
So that's another way to do it. I would almost tend to overshoot rather than undershoot, even with your focus stacking. Cause you know, it's just digital, you're not wasting film, so you just throw them out. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's what to do.
Very
So,
nice, Alan.
Oh, thank you.
yes, Dave,
I know he had it on a tripod, but is it a remote shutter button too?
No, I mean, you probably should, but this, when it's on an icon and you select focus stacking, it puts, it actually takes a couple of seconds for it to start, so everything's
it's
safe.
good to know. Oh, okay, so,
Automatically.
all right, so if you're shooting outside, you better hold still. A couple seconds. Yeah, okay, otherwise you think, oh, it's done, and like that, and all your stuff's like, all over the place.
Because you gotta hit, on the Nikon, you gotta hit the bar and back, you can't hit the shutter. If you hit the shutter, when you gotta sit on stacking, it's only gonna take one picture.
Oh, okay.
That's
I
right.
wonder if you put it in the multiple, if it does it there
Yep,
too.
it's still gotta, it won't, cause it won't move it.
I should try that on the Canon, see if it'll do multiples if I hit the back instead of that.
Push it, that's for you.
Yeah,
Move your, that's what starts it, cause at first I started, I kept pushing the shutter, won't ever get one picture, I couldn't figure out why it wasn't
Yeah.
taking more.
Yeah, yeah, you start it from the menu.
so they're all kind of quirky. Yeah, I find an electronic shutter release is pretty nice to have, and they're good for other things. If you get the one that's like a intervalometer where you can set it up to take a picture a second or an hour or whatever you want, you know, and then you can combine it with one of those tracks that moves and you really get fancy,
Yeah.
you know, but that's another style. We'll stick with the focus stacking for now.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions? No? Okay, good, good. So just to review, focus on the nearest thing. Make sure you got it sharp as a tack. The second thing is make sure your exposure is manual so that it's the same in every frame. Once you've established it, you know, however you want to do it, shoot a shot before, check your histogram, you know, copy those over from if you're using automatic anything, make sure it's all manual. And then depending on your camera, you set up your focus stacking and either you hit the back on the Nikon or you do multi-release on the shutter on the Canon and you either use electronic shutter release or gently touch it and go. And you can also do outside. And then again, if you don't want to do the focus stacking feature in the camera, you can just rack the focus manually by hand. You know, just practice it. If you're on a tripod, figure out the best way to keep the camera from moving much, you know. And when you're outside, you're just gonna get motion and hopefully you'll be able to line everything. Okay, Dave.
On a basic level, who uses this technique? Is it product photographers, fashion?
Anybody who wants to have everything in focus and you can't do it with your depth of field on on the lens that you're using. And it seems to be more prevalent on close-up and macro photography because your depth of field is very shallow. Okay,
Because he's using a macro lens here.
yeah.
It
Alrighty.
also works for landscaping too, does it?
Oh, yeah, it's a good, like if you can't get everything from the foreground to the mountains in focus, you can do 2, 3, 5, 10, how many shots you want to do, and you can just manually focus on what you want.
Then it turns out beautiful.
Yeah, once you combine it, it's all sharp, yeah.
So when you're doing a landscape, so you've got the mountains, you've got the foreground. How many shots? Right, just.
How many you need to keep it in focus? No, it could only be 3. I mean, you know, with a landscape, you know, once you get, depending on the lens, I mean, anywhere from 5 to 30 or 40 feet, it's gonna be an infinity anyway. So once you get to that point, you don't need it.
So what I do with landscapes is I flip the screen up and I've got a touch screen on the flip up screen. And
Right.
you can touch different parts of the image and it'll focus on that particular part. And then you can blend them all together afterwards.
Exactly. You can do the same on, you know, your macro stuff. So for instance, if you're gonna just do it manually, here, you touch here being your closest part, and then maybe you go somewhere around here. And then go about here, and then maybe back about the back of this unit, and that should pretty much cover everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But you don't shoot and focus stack in the mode. It's in your regular.
yeah.
Like I did,
Just gonna take
because when my.
3, 4,
lens
5
were
pictures.
Well, you can, and I've done
Yeah.
that too. So if you do focus stacking, figure maybe you need 3 to 5. You know, 5's kind of overkill, and then you just move your cursor to the nearest part, focus on that, and then let it rip through the rest. And it'll do it so quickly, you know, if you're fairly steady, you'll be, a lot of line.
Leave your, depending on where you're. I don't know what the distance would be of that far out or something on a different camera on the steps of the back of the camera. Cause it doesn't tell you how it's like 5, 7, 10, what that translates. You just have to experiment with that.
Mhm.
But it's,
Yeah, and I'd leave the distance between alone.
yeah.
Yeah, although you could try making it really big, so maybe only do 3, you know, and it's pretty far. But then something in between might not be in focus, so, yeah, maybe just leave it at default to start. The less variables you move around, the better you can control. figure out
It
what-
was a trial and error at the beginning, you know.
Exactly. So if you get down to a point where 5's almost doing it, maybe you can move that distance to greater or less to see what it needs to get those in between shots in focus. You can do it that way.
That's that little bottom.
Mhm.
Yeah, at the bottom, yeah. I don't know what it's called on Nikon.
It's-
Yeah. I can't remember. On the Canon even.
Put it way over to the
Yeah,
right.
it goes left or right, and it's a number, like, it's 5 is the center, 10 is far right.
Yeah. Okay, so this is Alan's setup. Are you tethered?
No, no.
Okay, you just have the
I
laptop.
I just had the laptop.
Right, yeah, because it looked like there was a cable coming down and I kind of saw something here, so I wasn't sure if you were tethered. If you can tether, it's great because then you take the shot and you can see it on,
I didn't bring my cord with me, but I.
yeah,
I'd have to try that.
yeah, you got that big screen to look at and you can zoom in and it's pretty instant, so that might
I'm
be.
going to try that. I'd love to try that. I haven't done that ever.
Yeah, worst case, you know, you just take the card out and throw it in the laptop and take a look the first and all the way through, and if you got it, you're done. If you don't, everything's ready to shoot again. You just
Well,
adjust
This
it.
next image, I shot it probably about half a dozen times before I got it to where I wanted it. So,
Mhm. Now you got this in color and black and white.
right.
Color's got some nice, you know, kind of,
Green tints.
I just changed I changed the light, what do you call that now? Damn it.
oh, you're underlight.
The daylight.
Oh, the daylight?
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a little more ethereal and some of it's not real sharp. It's a little misty, but I like it for something soft like this. I've got a similar shot. Maybe you guys saw that feather I showed last week where it's kind of that way on the edges too, and it kind of makes it a little more soft and angelic or whatever.
Yeah, this is not easy because this is about probably 3 inches in sphere. It's a spherical.
It's a pretty big one. It's not like a little dandelion burr. Yeah, so you got to carry that. So how many shots did it take you to get through that?
Probably about 8, I think it was.
Okay, that's not so bad.
Yeah. I set it up for 22 and
You were
just
going
dumped.
behind it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Now this is an AI assisted image. So it's the above image rotated around, and I just took the bottom of it and I said, add some smoke, and this is what I came up with.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
So originally it was this way?
Yeah, well, it's the same. It's the same image is the one that you just looked at.
Oh,
That's
okay.
the same image,
Oh, I see. And then you just put this on top of it.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, AI did
Looks
that.
like a feather duster for a base or something going in there, or a volcano, who knows? Okay,
It
yeah.
was pretty interesting how it came up with that, so.
Colors together, that's, he didn't stuff it in the vase?
Yeah, he put it in the vase, but what he did was,
No, I didn't do that.
oh,
AI
you didn't
did
do
that.
that either.
No,
Oh, okay.
so I this image that you just saw, right?
Yeah.
Just clipped the bottom of it and I said, add smoke. And it came up with the vase
Oh, it
and
added the base and this.
yeah,
Okay, now I understand.
Really?
Yeah, so
So
it's
it's using AI.
generative fill, yeah, AI.
yes,
Okay,
pretty awesome.
Oh, he was, okay,
pretty strange.
yeah.
You almost have some nice thing going on here, if you just did something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
it's kind of fun.
yeah.
All right. That's the last one. All right, well, thanks for bringing those in.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Hang tight, and let's go to Don.
It's a seed pod on a palm branch.
Ah,
That's about 15 shots, I think it was.
okay.
Problem I ran into when I on the automatic focus, the bottom focus, where I put it to focus, wasn't accurate. It was actually focusing more in front of it than where I was at.
Mhm.
So I don't know how, if it can be reset in the lens, adjusted or not, without sending it to the factory, but. So I just had to figure out where to set it.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta kind of do trial and error.
Yeah.
Well, if I move
Figure
it,
out where.
move
where
it
it's
up,
hitting.
yeah, we'll go back, or if I move it forward, and then just kind of figure it out. It's also the angle of your plane here too, it could be, whoops, sorry. No, it won't be do a zero. It could be that, if you wanted it all sharp, you probably should have just focused right down here.
Okay.
Although, then this might not have been sharp, so you just kind of have to fool around and see what
Yeah,
happens
I
here.
did.
Mhm.
So what was the f-stop on this one?
What was what lens did you use?
105,
And what was your f-stop on that?
f-stop was probably 8,
F8,
8 or 10,
and you said, how many did you use?
15.
15, okay. Is there a limit on focus stacking, or can you?
I haven't found it. I
Okay,
did
so Nikon
30.
does, okay, good, so Nikon doesn't have it. It's
Yeah, I did over 30 one time.
just how much time you want to wait when you put it together in
Yeah,
Photoshop. I gotcha. Okay,
Then the hold up's Photoshop. Camera don't take long to do 30.
no, it's quick, it's very quick. Well, I like the way it falls off as it goes back, and you've got that nice convergence, out to infinity here. You might want to just, maybe try a vignette or something, or a gradation, just to darken that background down a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Make it a little more prominent in the
I
front.
did darken it some.
Yeah, yeah. You might do a little bit with the foreground too.
Okay.
Yeah, just to kind of pull in on that. I know you use the radials, maps too. You might go around the image itself and just get it.
I did a radial, inverse radial around the
Mhm,
seed, and then I also bought a linear radial.
mhm.
Linear, I
Radio,
want it to darken a little bit more on top.
okay, yeah.
What kind of seed pod is this?
I have no idea.
I don't either. That's the
They're all
way.
bushes out here.
Yeah, this time of year they're out. Yeah, because I shot them some years back, and they're one of my favorites. They're wonderful.
Pretty cool, yeah.
Yeah.
When I got this one, it was full of seeds too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're like black,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
I like this. This is nice.
iPad
Mhm,
or Samsung Note tablet.
mhm.
That's where I got the black reflection off of.
Really nice.
It almost looks like it's a black acrylic,
Mhm.
means that
What your cell phone
Yeah.
and the shirt. I tried the cell phone, but it just wasn't big enough. I can't-
Yeah, you need something bigger.
Yeah, I had to have something bigger than that.
Yeah, those spots are about what, an inch or two across?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Pretty good
Tom,
size.
You mean you place the pod on a pad?
On the
That's what
iPad,
creates.
on the notebook. On
Oh.
your screen. on the
Not that
computer
you
screen.
shot it on the pad.
No, it's on the glass.
No, no,
He's
it's
just
on
using the
the
glass as a
glass.
base.
Turn it off, set it on the black glass.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
yeah. It's,
And then the rest of the lighting and stuff was the lighting that was in the house.
Oh, that's amazing.
okay, so is
The
that,
light on the blue light was actually a white light.
And the
I
pad
changed
was
the
off.
hue of that to blue to.
and then the warm light was something
There
incandescent
was
somewhere.
another light. And there was a fluorescent above it, I think it was.
Uh-huh. You gotta be careful with fluorescents when you're stacking, because you know, they cycle.
Oh, okay, I didn't think of that.
Yeah, yeah, so you may catch it when they're off or partially down or partially
Oh.
up, yeah, so your exposures might change, so, yeah, just be careful when you're
Of
using
that.
those, when you're using fluorescents, even the compact ones. They cycle, so,
Incredible.
yeah, that's a beautiful shot.
Don,
Yeah.
you go out in nature and collect.
Oh, I shoot anything that strikes me.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Now, those I picked up out here, the parking lot on the way home after the last class.
Ah.
And pulled a piece of bark off of the tree and I figured, I'll do something with that.
They bark back at you when you pulled it off.
Only one of them
Yeah,
had a top to, and I hunted around, but I found some more tops and I took them home and glued the tops on, so it wouldn't fall off.
yeah.
Oh, really?
I'm always wondering if maybe the one on the right, well, I guess you could have done a descending thing or maybe put the one on the right in the middle. Yeah, so kind of,
Oh, I see what you're saying,
yeah, just aesthetically.
I didn't even think about that,
Yeah,
short stem in the center.
yeah,
Really nice, Don.
very nice.
Yeah.
Maybe even turn it so it points one way or the other, because they all look like they're kind of leaning this way, so maybe you could turn that one so it
Okay.
leans a little too.
And
You know, the
this is
stem part.
about 15 shots?
No, I think it was 10,
Okay,
Unbelievable.
because this is pretty flat. The
Yeah.
piece of wood was set straight up, and the one on the left looks like it's been cut off, it's actually sitting in a hole in the bark.
yeah, there you go, yeah.
Looks like that's been
Mhm.
cut off, but it's sitting inside of the hole.
Yeah,
Oh,
And out there, the palm tree out in our patio, it's got that loose bark and stuff, but these winds blew a bunch of, so I went out and put a bunch of that together and made a heck of a mess.
I'll bet. Almost looks like a little nest.
Try to make a nest out of it.
Yeah,
Sort of in there.
You're gonna get some visitors with that liner
Oh,
yeah, really. Yeah,
I set it on top of a sheet of deflector plastic, that nylon reflector I got black. You can see some of the texture coming through. I didn't really like the texture of the black coming through.
uh-huh.
Well, she said, I don't notice it that much. She said, I kind of like it that way.
Mhm.
That's what it-
Yeah.
really nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, you've certainly mastered the stacking and the
Now, this one
composition.
here is handheld and it's 3 shots and it's not stacked. It's just, this is at the Ignite Museum. And they had this display sitting there where the static electricity is flying around inside that bottle.
Mhm.
So each one of those lines is a separate shot.
Oh,
Okay.
Because there was only one line, and it would flash over here and then flash here, and how, like lightning flying around in there. And I shot 30, 40 shots like that, and just handheld it and let the shutter run.
yeah.
How
And,
fun is that?
it got to the point where there was too much going on in there, it just looked like it was fire flying everywhere in there, so I found that the 3 that kind of give it on all around it best, and I like these 3 shots the best.
Yeah.
Then I put that in and stacked them.
I've done that with lightning as well, like in the
Have you?
summer monsoons here, you
Yeah.
know, you'll get 2 or 3 of them where you've got the lightning you like the most, you know, where you just kind of put those together and do the same thing, auto align, auto blend.
Yeah. Cool shot, Don.
Thank you.
Real nice.
Sandy, the lightning shot in your show, you stacked up.
That one I did, yeah, but only one part. Almost all of it was in one shot, and then there was a little spot that was a
Put
little
some
bare, and I put a couple more in there, yeah, yeah. Okay, thanks.
How
Those
do
are
you
nice.
get the lightning? How do you know it's coming? Does your camera know?
No, well, there's a sensor you can get that trips when it's just a split second
Instant.
as it hits, and it gives you enough time for the shutter to go through and
So
catch
you
the
have your
shot.
camera set up.
The other way, before I had that device, was I'd do it at night, and I'd just leave the camera open like anywhere from 3 to 5 seconds. You know, and
During
then
the lightning storm.
during a lightning storm, and I just keep shooting and shooting and
So
shooting.
you get it.
Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't, sometimes you get part of it. And again, you'd have to adjust your exposure once you finally got one, because it might be too blown out or too dark. So once you get that down, then you can just spend the rest of the night.
Make a whole evening of it.
Well, or however long the storm lasts, yeah. Yeah. You know, and you can just follow it along and keep it on tripod. Yeah. That I was doing, there was a hailstorm here a couple years ago, and it blew the roof off our house, you know, about 4 feet of it. And so they put us up at Canoa Ranch while they were repairing it, and at Canoa Ranch Resort's probably the highest part in Green Valley, so we had one facing Tucson, and we're on the 3rd floor, and the storms up there were wonderful to shoot.
I remember those shots you posted.
Yeah, those are just amazing. Yeah. All right, well, thanks, Don, those are great. Okay, so Pat, let's see what we got here. Well, you got the exercise down.
Okay, so this was my lens that wouldn't work with my camera doing the stacking. So I took 7 shots manually moving the focus. And if, you know, redo it, I would take it off the cloth, I would just have it flat on the table, because the spools wouldn't sit straight, which I kind of should have had.
Yeah, just a little soft here too, and I'm wondering if it isn't,
Well, I think that,
that's your phone? Oh, okay.
but then I went back, yeah, that's my first shot. So go to the next one.
Yeah. Oops, let me get back on here. Yep.
Was that the second shot?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, these aren't in order though.
Yeah, 466, 467, 468,
Okay,
469.
so the second shot, then I moved my focus more back
Mm-hmm.
into the scissor.
Mm-hmm. That's your third.
Third shot,
So you
then
got the
I was
back.
I think I was on the green spool.
Was that why you were here the last time?
Pardon?
Was that during class last time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and there
I
you're,
was on the blue spool there,
yeah,
then I was on the yellow,
yeah.
and the next one I.
It moved.
Straightened the.
Oh, you straightened it.
straightened the spool.
Yeah, you can't do that because then you've
Yeah.
got something that
But
moved.
I did.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's why you've got this ghost going on when you composited it, because it's moved.
Okay.
Is that the composite right there?
Yeah, yeah, so if we take these first ones, let's just do it. Oops, I think I just hit zoom, let's
Yeah,
go
the
back.
last 3 are the 3 different composites.
Yeah, so let's turn these off real quick. So we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, I think 5. Let's see, is this the, yeah, that's the last one before it moved, I think. Yeah, nope.
Oh, you can see it move.
Yeah, so right there. So we take these, if you composited these, you'd probably be okay.
Well, and I think the first stack is just those,
Hmm.
because I didn't do it because I didn't know how to do it. So Don Lovely helped, or showed went through the steps with me.
Mhm. Well, this first one,
And that,
yeah,
I think is just the first 5.
yeah, it just looks like it's a little soft here. Because you didn't have enough to carry your depth of field. Okay. And then your next, oops, let me go back to, these two. Well, we'll take all 3 of them. All right. So this one, did you crop in on it or?
Yes, he cropped in and then he put the little white line along the outside.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, that's almost there. I mean, again, if this was a little sharper, it would be sharp in the stack. And if you had maybe one more, you'd probably get the back of this and this. You know, you'd have enough to carry back for the rest of your focus.
I noticed alongside the scissors, it's sharp and then it's not sharp on the material, on the cloth.
Mm.
I had that same issue with some of them I took, and I had to, on that fan, I had to take and clone, drag it up so it was, wasn't very many spots, but there were a couple spots that were just dead, everything was sharp, light up through it, but then there was like a spot that was just, what causes that? Is there a dip in there or something?
Well, see,
Yeah.
the fabric isn't.
Yeah, or just enough to,
Just enough
to
to
take it out of focus, yeah.
Out of
And
focus.
you're at F8, which should have carried more, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would have thought, that's what
yeah,
I
yeah.
couldn't figure
Yeah,
out.
possibly, I don't know, with
Was it
macros,
angle or something?
yeah, macros, I think past 11, sometimes you don't get much more. Maybe you could try 11 and see if that's enough.
Okay.
You know, sometimes depending on the lens and where you are and what the angle is to the subject and all that,
It's tight.
there's a lot of variables there.
Yeah,
Maybe you could even try, 22 and see what it does, but, I think you're gonna get diffraction and other things going on when you start stopping down that far. Which is gonna soften things up too,
I
so.
mean, it wasn't hard to fix, but I have expected it.
On that one,
to be-
yeah, but if
yeah,
it comes
I would
again,
expect it
yeah,
to be
you
sharp.
may wanna, try moving it a little bit, you may wanna try. How you're tilting the lens to the subject,
Okay.
or if the subject's flat or if it's angled up, there's a lot of variables
Oh,
at play
variables.
here that you can play around with and try like, but just do them one at a time. Don't do like 2 or 3 things at once, because you won't know what's doing what. Yeah, just eliminate your variables. If you do one and it doesn't help, then put it back where it was and try the next one.
Okay.
And so on until you can hone it down to what's causing it. All right, let's look at this next one.
So that's the last step.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at F10 with 3 shots.
Yeah, I think this one's probably a little better.
But like I said, if I would do it over again, I would just done it like on the dark tabletop or that cabinet that I was.
Right,
using,
right.
rather than the fabric.
Well, if you continue to pursue this, at least now you know how to shoot it and what to look for. Are you gonna be all right doing the Photoshop part of it, or can Don help you again?
Well, yeah, I think if I once get, because I don't want to go into Lightroom and I want to do it in elements. And there is a process. That's what he took these through.
So he did it in elements for you? Okay,
If you go into the guided part, then it will align them, it will, I don't know if it blends them. But it does take it through,
mhm.
that's what.
Oh,
I
good.
have.
Well, that's good to know. All right. Excellent. So you're gonna make some more, or
Well,
have you had enough?
I may change the subject.
Well, yeah, but I don't mean make some more of this one, but
Yeah.
make some more focus stacks. Okay. Well, if you do, let's check them out.
Okay.
All right. Anybody got any questions or anything else they want to add? You got any other issues besides focus stacking that you might want to go through?
Sandy, you know, I didn't do any because my camera.
Right,
was under-
yeah, you have limitations, yeah. But you did do some close-ups, right?
Yeah, I was shooting some rubber ducks for
Yeah, I remember that.
Gene's
Yeah,
pet assignment.
yeah. How did that work out for you?
They look good,
Yeah, oh, excellent.
but I
I have
couldn't.
a question, actually.
Okay.
Just going back to the ones I put in there, knowing that I used a 2.8 f-stop. If I had, say, used an f16 or something, f18, what am I, what's the difference? What difference am I going to see? I'm actually going to go and shoot that right now just to see what difference I would get, but
I'd be
Would-
curious to see, but basically you're gonna have more information overlapping. And you give Photoshop the ability to choose what it wants in focus,
right,
to, pull in and mask out the rest. So you just have a little more variety and of range,
right,
to choose from, to nail it down. And you might need less shots.
yeah, well, I would
Again,
imagine,
if you get up too high, you're gonna have diffraction. So if you're at 2.8, I'd try one at 5.6 and see if it's any better.
okay,
And then maybe go to f8, but I don't think you need to go to 22 or anything like that.
yeah,
Okay,
okay, good.
all right. Anybody want to go over anything on software or?
Could you run my 5?
Yeah,
shots
I can do
through
that. Okay,
And see if, without any difference?
yeah. All right, let me close this up. And. Okay.
There was more than just me and Don doing this, there was Priest and Jane, so we kind of use this as a learning experience for.
Well, I don't have elements, nor have I
No,
used it.
I want you to run it through. like-
Photoshop,
Yeah.
like I normally would do it. All right, well, in Photoshop, you just go to scripts. And then you do load files into stack. Okay. And I think one of those video links I gave you goes through this as well, so you can watch it
Well,
on YouTube.
Your email went to my spam, and I kept waiting for Sandy's email.
Did you find it?
Well, then I thought, well, I'm gonna check spam, and so I didn't have time to.
Maybe because it had,
My videos didn't play.
oh, that's the
There's
shame.
3 of them, I clicked on all 3 of them, and it went to YouTube and it just sat there.
Hmm.
Now, one of them was a little bit weird, but,
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, well, one of them talks about all the kind of lenses you can have and all this other stuff. I don't know if I included that one because that one was a couple years old, but yeah, these guys are a little bizarre too, but there is enough to learn from that makes sense. Okay, so let's go to here and do this again. Let's see if we get these again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Hit open. So now you've got the 5 in your setup here to load as layers, and then you hit OK.
Now we go to lunch, right, while it's rendering.
No, this part not too bad, but
Not
when it is the auto blend, that's the one that takes a while.
So you just click that and it just,
Yeah, it just puts them all here in layers, see? So now what you do is you click the first one, hold the shift key down and click the last one, so they're all selected. All right, and then you're gonna go under Edit menu, and you see down here where it says Auto Align Layers. You click that. And I just leave it on auto. It seems to do a pretty good job that way. And then just click OK. And we'll go through those.
so Trees took my shots and tried to put it through. Is there another software?
Oh, Luminar Neo
No,
has a focus
yeah, it
stacking.
wasn't that.
Yeah, well, there's Heliacon, which,
What do people usually use for like when they shoot the stars.
Oh, the star stacker.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
that might
but it-
work. I don't know. I've never tried it.
She couldn't get that. to work.
Generally, the people that do this a lot use Heliacon, which is a real high-end stacking software. But I think it's about $200. You can get a trial version just to see if it's worth your while, but it does a real nice job.
So is that a quick once and after?
There's some tutorials, but it's pretty simple. It does a lot of the heavy lifting for you. Yeah. Okay, so now we've got this, and then the next thing, while they're all still selected, is to go to edit and then do auto blend, and this is the one that takes a while. Now, it's gonna take longer if you have content aware fill transparent areas checked. If you check that like that, it's gonna take a long time, so usually I leave that off, okay? Leave the rest on there. You want stack images, not panorama, because you're stacking, you're not making a big wide panorama. You hit okay and just let it go to work.
What was the name of that other stack?
Heliacon, Helicon. And there's a bunch of YouTube videos on that if you want to watch it first and see how it works.
Okay.
Yeah, this is probably gonna take a while. Oh, while that's doing that, let's go look it up. Yeah,
So does that Helicon you have to have? I mean, is it an add-on to something or?
I think you can get it as a plug into Lightroom.
Yeah, I don't use Lightroom, so. If it's not a standalone.
Is it Helicon? No, I'm not sure of the spelling. Let me go to YouTube.
No.
Yeah, I can't remember. No, that's not it either. Let's go to focus stack. Yeah, focus stacking software. Let's see what we. Yeah, here it is, Helicon, Helicon. And Zarina is the other one. I like the Helicon better. But I guess we gotta watch this real quick while it's,
My phone, my wallet, passport.
You should be using for macro photography. But first, I want to talk real quick about why focus stacking software is even needed in the first place. We see when you're using a macro lens at very extreme magnification, your depth of field, or in other words, where your photo starts being in focus to the point that it starts being out of focus, gets very, very small, sometimes only a few pieces of paper thick. So if we want to get more of our subject in focus, what we need to do is take a series of photos all focused on different points of our subject. We can then use software after the fact to take all these focus slices and turn them into one image with a deeper depth of field. Now, this blending is called focus stacking and is done using software. The most popular options are Photoshop, Helicon Focus, and Zarine Stacker. So we're going to briefly take a look at the stacking process in each of those, and then we're going to compare some of the results. Now, if you want to know more about the actual stacking process itself, make sure to subscribe because I have an upcoming tutorial. Okay, so stacking in Photoshop is done by going to File.
let's pause this for a second here and, yeah, so this is what we got on yours.
Okay, so it made that fabric in front of the scissor in focus.
Yeah,
Where the rounded, by the blade.
oh, here?
Yeah. See now, because that was out of focus,
Mhm.
right where the blade,
Along the shank of the
yeah,
blade. It's out of focus before.
Yeah, and it looks like you're a little sharper here. Yeah,
the yellow spool is still.
Mhm. So what you can do now is you can, you can go in here and crop this thing, make it look, whoops, what's that? It's not what we want. Yeah. Not doing very well here. There we go. Yeah, something like that. Now, if you want to make the file smaller, you leave this delete crop pixels on, but if you want to change it again, then you leave that off. You may want to recrop it and do something else. So I just turned that off, and then you just hit the plus sign there, and that's it.
Can you send that to me?
Yeah, sure. Now, the other thing I can do with this is rather than sending you all these single files, I'm going to flatten it. And then I'm gonna,
So is that like merge visible?
yeah, or flatten image, merge visible, yeah, same kind of thing, yeah. So now you just have one. Yeah. And you see your document size got a lot smaller. Okay, so let's just I'll just call it thread class. You want a JPEG or what are you looking for? No. We hit desktop here. I'll put it max. Let's see how big it's gonna be here. 8 megs, yeah, you can probably get that. Let me just send this off to you before. I forget. Don't have much room here. There we go. There you go. Okay,
If you put it in the body of the email, will I be able to get it out of there?
yeah, it'll come as an attachment. Yeah,
Thank you.
sure. Okay. So again, if you leave that delete pixels unchecked, you should be able to go back. Doesn't look like.
We flattened it.
Oh, we flattened it. Thank you. Let me undo that. Let me go up to my history here and. Yeah. What's going on? Oh, hang on. Crop. All right, so now we can go back and. Yeah, still not working right.
What if you just do undo, Sandy?
Let me get out of there. There we go. Okay. You know what? I think we were at the top there. Yeah. So that's why there wasn't any left.
Hmm.
So if we go back to crop here. Yeah, nope, still not working. All right. So in this case, we'd need to go back to auto blend, and then you got the whole image, and you can go back and crop it. However you want. Okay. All righty. I can send you the link if you want to that software, YouTube we were watching.
Okay.
Yeah, I can do that.
So Dave, were you able to watch the links that he sent in the email?
No, because
Let me go to
I know
my,
I can't do stacking, so I didn't watch.
yeah, let me go back and see, all right, so we've got,
That top one was good. The next one I found wasn't working too good.
it didn't work. Well, let's take a look.
Why does every outdoor brand think I want to look like this? I know I don't. Gear today is getting out.
So this one you weren't able to see?
Maybe it was the next one, I'm not sure now. Or maybe it was the ad that put me off.
It could have been, yeah, yeah. I guess we can watch it if you want. You guys want to? We're pretty well done. We're not gonna shoot today, so. Is it coming through, Alan?
Sorry?
Can you see that? Can you hear it?
Yeah, no, I can see it fine, yeah.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
Oh, yeah, it was this
Two
one.
words out.
This is a strange video.
Budding. I'm reading it and I still fuck it up.
Can you understand this
With the
guy,
hard
Alan?
part now, I can't look at the iPad.
How's that?
Hi everyone.
It's a
Very good.
strange video.
Through the
It's-
fundamentals of macro.
Oh, this is
Now I'm
the
gonna
end.
get
I'm
me a
sorry.
Lego set.
That's the outtakes.
I could send you a video that you'd never understand.
Your turn.
Yeah, yeah. All right, let's just.
At the Hyundai Getaway sales event. Get in and get away. Now, before
There we go. I like this little.
I have a friend in Scotland that shoots bugs and they're just amazing.
welcome
Absolutely.
back to my channel where we explore the fascinating world of macro photography. Today, we have an exciting topic for all the budding macro photographers out there. We'll be diving into the technique of focus stacking, a powerful tool to capture stunning details in your macro shot. So grab your camera and let's get started.
See if that's.
Hey everyone, in this video, I'm going to guide you through the fundamentals of focus stacking in macro photography. Focus stacking is a technique that combines multiple images at different focus points into one ultra-sharp image. It's particularly useful when shooting close-ups of small subjects where the depth of field is very narrow. Macro photography can be fun, but at the same time, it can be very frustrating. Forget camera gear for the moment. There is one problem that faces every macro photographer out there, and that is depth of field. Depth of field is the in-focus areas of an image, and in macro photography, that is extremely thin. So how can we combat the problem of depth of field? How can we increase the area that is in focus in an image? The first thought that comes to mind is increasing your f-stop. Increasing your f-stop closes down the aperture in your camera's lens, which results in a higher depth of field. But this also introduces another problem that macro photographers have to fight, and that is diffraction. In macro photography, diffraction refers to the phenomenon where light waves spread out and interfere with each other when passing through a small aperture. Diffraction can manifest itself in an image as a loss of fine details, a lack of sharpness, and an overall softening of the image. This effect is most noticeable at higher f-stops like f16 and f22. It's worth noting that diffraction is a fundamental aspect of photography, no matter what genre you're doing, and is more noticeable at higher f-stops. In short, the higher the f-stop goes, the softer your image will become. This is where focus bracketing and focus stacking come in.
6. Happens again. Try that, folks.
Focus stacking is a technique that allows you to create images with a maximum depth of field. In other words, with focus stacking, you can create sharp images from the front of the insect, like the insect's feet, all the way to the back, having an entire insect in focus. There are 2 steps to focus stacking. The first step is called focus bracketing. This is where you take a series of images at different focal points throughout the scene. Afterwards, you blend these images using post-processing software together to create one composite image that is ultra sharp. This step is called focus stacking. There are many different methods of capturing the focus bracketing sequence, but some methods are better than others. This is what I like to call the hit rate. You'll hear me mention the hit rate several times in this video. Simply put, the hit rate is the amount of successful stacks you get from any given method. One aspect that contributes to the success of your image stacks is your subject. No matter what your subject is, it needs to be static and still. If your subject moves while doing the focus bracketing sequence, your focus stack will fail. This includes any extreme camera movements or wind in the scene. Sometimes you can get weird artifacts like this. This is caused by the insect antennas moving while doing a stack. These can be easily fixed in Photoshop afterwards. The one thing that will always ruin your stack is the subject moving. Believe me, they don't know you're taking an image of them and they just don't care. If the subject moves, you will have to start the focus bracketing all over again.
So you've got the option, if you've got that particular, like in this instance, that antenna in a spot where you want it and it's sharp, you can just eliminate with on your masks, on all the rest of those stacks, you can just erase those. Just black them out with black paint on your mask. So you just have one. So even after everything's done and auto blend and everything else, you can go in there and figure out you can go through the layers and figure out where those culprits are that you want to get rid of, and then just black them out. All right.
Okay.
So that's enough.
Using the flash.
Yeah.
Does the flash help with the movement and stuff too?
Yeah.
That freezes it.
Help freeze the action. Yeah. Although if it moves,
If it moves a lot, it's.
yeah,
it
it's
freezes
still
it
gonna
far out
freeze.
here instead of back
Yeah,
here.
exactly. So it helps to a certain bit. A lot of times he's using the flash for lighting because it's just too dark, and he can't get a decent low ISO, and he's gonna get a lot of noise and other things going on. So he'll just use it for basically a fill rather than to freeze the action.
Right.
The first method I want to talk about when it comes to focus bracketing is manually moving your focusing ring. What you want to do is you want to set up your camera to a continuous burst mode. We're going to focus our camera just in front of where you want the stack to begin. What we're going to do is we will press and hold down our shutter, allow the stack to start, and then we will turn our focusing ring to slowly focus from the front of the insect to the back of the insect, giving us a focus stack.
Now he's going a step further. He's focusing even closer than the closest part. So he makes sure he has everything. That might be a good thing to do for you too as well, Pat. So in other words, so if this is your object, instead of focusing here, focus up here. So that as you rotate it, you're gonna get it sometime. And now rather than just do a little shoot, he's just constantly.
This method, you really want to be on a solid
Yeah,
tripod
just-
like this
he's
tripod from Surrey. And
Okay, so he's on high speed and he starts shooting and moving it at the same time. So he's not like focus, shoot, focus, shoot, focus, shoot. He's just rolling it through.
True
Yeah.
machine gun mode.
Exactly. And then that's a good way to make sure you got it covered if you can't do it in your focus stacking software.
So now he has that rail there.
Yeah, but he's not really using it now. I mean, the rail's the real old way. I think, you guys learned that
Mhm.
a long time ago from, who was it?
Yeah.
Here.
Jim?
Gary.
Gary, yeah, from Gary. Yeah, where basically you focus, move. Yeah.
That's when I got mine.
Yeah, you don't have to do it anymore with the software you've got in your camera now. Yeah. Eliminates a lot of that stuff. Okay, let's continue.
a decent ball head.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm surprised he doesn't get camera shake. Is his equipment so heavy?
Well, yeah, and he's on a really good solid tripod. That's what he's saying now. You got a good, nice sturdy tripod and you just barely touch the thing. That's what I'm saying. You practice doing that. I was talking about that before. You find a range where you get your elbow to a certain point, you grab that thing very gingerly and then just move your arm. Just move your elbow down and that will get you through it.
And shutter speed real high too.
Yeah. So you might even start like this and just go like that, but you're not, well, use the other arm. You know, so I'm not using my right arm to do it either, but instead of doing this, you do this. Okay,
Popsicle stick.
So.
yeah, you can do that too.
shutter speed,
higher.
like,
I would,
like.
when I do it like that, I want the highest shutter speed I could possibly get.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's continue.
From platypod. This is the platypod. With a solid foundation using natural light, this is a very good method for capturing your focus bracketed images. The quicker you can get your focus bracketed sequence done, the higher your hit rate will be. The second method I want to talk about is handheld focus bracketing. It's exactly the same as method one, but we're just ditching the tripod. We don't want to use a tripod. It's too constricting. If you've got a steady enough hand, we can do it handheld. Again, we will set our camera to a continuous burst. I will set the magnification on my lens so we can get our subject to fill the frame. And we will focus just in front of the subject, press down our shutter button and move the camera forward to get our stack. To get a successful stack when hand holding, you can only move the camera forward. If you pan it or move it up and down, your stack will fail. So you need to be steady and just move it forward. If you're like me and you like to use flash, this method is perfectly okay for flash. However, by using the flash, it will slow you down because you've got to take a picture, move forward, wait for the flash to recycle, take another picture, which means your hit rate will be lower than doing a natural light handheld focus bracketing.
When we first arrived at St. Jude, it was just
So you can, in the handheld, you can also do the focus and not move forward. That's another option. But moving forward's like that rail, except you're, your hand holding it. You don't want to go left or right or up or down. You're just going to go in. Okay.
You don't like method one or two, or you're just unstable doing a handheld focus stack, then what you can do is you can get a piece of gear called a macro focusing rail. This is the SIG NM200S. What this piece of gear allows you to do is to move the camera in very fine steps. What we can do is we can set up the camera. Again, you set the magnification so the subject's filling the frame. We focus just in front of the subject where we want the stack to start, and we can take a picture. We can then move our knob to move the camera forward. This method is very successful on static objects, such as insects in the morning when they're cold and not moving, watches, or any type of product photography. This can be very successful. However, the downside is probably the slowest method in getting a focus bracketed sequence, which means if you're photographing moving subjects, again, your hit rate is probably going to be the lowest using this method. Method 4 that I want to talk about is autofocus bracketing. Most modern cameras now come equipped with a feature to capture a series of focus bracketed images. The feature is called, as you guessed it, focus bracketing. You'll need to check your camera's manual to see if your camera supports taking a focus bracketed sequence. Although most modern cameras can do focus bracketing, not all of them can do it with a third-party flash. If you're a natural light macro photographer, you've got nothing to worry about. However, if you like me and you like to use a flash, then you will need to check your camera's manual to see if your camera will trigger the flash whilst doing a focus bracketed sequence. Autofocus bracketing, like on this Olympus EM1 Mark II, is now my favorite and go-to method for getting a focus bracketed image of a live insect out in the field. Some cameras can also support internal focus stacking. If yours does, turn it on, give it a go, you may be surprised by the results. Since getting this camera, my hit rate for focus stacking out in the field has doubled. It's fast, it's very easy, and it's more enjoyable than any of the other methods that I have described in this video. Once you've captured your focus bracketing sequence, it's time to bring them all together. We do this using a post-processing software like Photoshop, Zoom Stacker, or Helicon Focus. My preferred software that I use is Helicon Focus. My workflow when it comes to a focus stacked image is this. I will take the focus bracketed sequence into Lightroom and color grade them using my macro presets. Link in the description if you want to take a look at my macro presets and support the channel. I then bring those into Helicon Focus. Now, I'm not an expert when it comes to Helicon Focus, so 90% of the time, I leave the default settings as they are and I just click render and allow Helicon Focus to stack the images together. What this software is doing is it's picking the sharp in focus areas from each image and blending them together into one composite image that has a higher depth of field than you can get using just the camera alone. Once this is done, I will then take that into Photoshop and clean it up using my macro assistant actions. Again, there's a link in the description if you want to take a look at my actions for Photoshop. Once we've done the editing, you should have one composite image that beautifully showcase the intricate details of your subject. If you get weird artifacts like in this example here, that means you haven't taken enough images in the sequence and there's parts of your image that are out of focus. If you do get this, don't worry, just go out, try again and just take more images. Always take more than you need. That's it, folks. With focus stacking, you can capture macro photographs with breathtaking details. Remember, practice makes perfect. So don't be afraid to experiment and refine your skills. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe.
This is Stuart Woods' image. We'll give him credit for that. Thank you. Okay, so that was in the previous, so you were having problems with the link itself?
Well, I got the stuff sent, but when I clicked on it, I didn't get it. I mean, YouTube come up, but there wasn't.
No, that's,
Didn't play
no,
it,
that's
so
just,
it didn't do it.
that's disappointing. Well, I'll send that one out again, if you want.
Yeah, I'd like to have that.
Let's go back and see that's this one. Were you able to see the first one or not?
Yeah, first one was good.
How about, you?
Yeah, I haven't seen that either.
All right, I guess we'll do that one too.
So you think you know Wix? Do you really? First up, we've got Shake. In today's video, I have ditched my tripod, ditched my flash, and I am handheld shooting macro photos just like these. I use the tripod flash quite a lot in my macro photography. And sometimes it is great going out with a kit bag full of absolutely everything that you need, so you can take any single shot you come across. But also really liberating coming out with just a camera with nothing else weighing you down, camera, macro lens, and that's it. That's exactly what I'm doing today. It's another one of those days when I'm out for a walk in my local area. No idea what I'm going to find. No idea what I'm looking for. Nice fly, for example. Let's take a photo here. Oh, no, it's gone. It's coming back. Let's carry on.
At Rise, the proven quality of Kroger brand products will make you feel like you're winning.
Live shots will require a good tripod, flash, maybe multiple flashes, diffusers, bounce cards, macro rails. And if you take all of that stuff out with you every time you go, you're talking about many kilograms on your back. I often feel that if I am physically weighed down, I feel quite creatively weighed down as well. But because I'm not weighed down with loads of stuff, it means that anytime I see something, if I'm quick enough, I can hopefully get some kind of shot. Starting off with these bluebells, which are looking great this time of year. I want a wide aperture for a really shallow depth of field look, but I also want to make sure that the bluebells themselves are all in focus. So here I did a handheld focus stack using burst mode on my camera and slowly twisting the focus barrel while I fired off the frames. Then I just pieced the shots together in Photoshop. I really
So, couple things here. He's using a wider aperture so that he gets less depth of field, and he has a nice bokeh background with the subject in focus. So that's another thing to consider as you decide how far you want to stop down with each shot. To answer your question, Alan, before. So if you go to f8, yeah, obviously you're not going to have that kind of background. Whereas in 2.8, you
Yeah.
definitely have it. The other thing, again, he's hand holding it and he's doing his manual focus here. So let's see how he does that.
like how this finished shot looks as it combines that shallow depth of field look with the focus on the flowers. But it doesn't require lugging around a tripod with you and having to lock your camera down. Take this shot as another example. I took 15 images in very quick succession. Again, turning that focus barrel to move the focus point over the fly, and the result is this. A lovely shallow depth of field.
Now you see how those moved around, you know, it's not like being on a tripod. The other advantage which he brought up of not having a tripod is you're not locked down, so you don't have to just plan that shot and then you're stuck with it. You can move around, or do one, then move around, do another one, you know. It's a lot easier than fixing, putzing around with a tripod, especially the one you have where you gotta do the legs all the time. Yeah, so keep that in mind.
Right, but keeping that insect and the flower in perfect focus. And I did the exact same thing with this lovely pink flower that really stood out to me against the greens around it. Shooting wide open at f2.8, I get a very shallow depth of field like this, which really doesn't work. But taking lots of shots where I quickly move that focus point across the subject, I eventually get this stacked image, all without using a tripod or a flash. But not every shot needs to be stacked. This one, I think, works perfectly well as just a straight snap, with those nice leaves blurring into the background behind the flower. Of course, securing your camera on a tripod means you can shoot at much slower shutter speeds without risk of blur, and using a flash brings in a lot of light. So obviously, without those two bits of kit, I do have to adjust my settings a lot, just in order to bring back enough light to get a visible image. So that means two things really. First of all, I'm shooting much wider than I normally would, usually about f2.8. So that means I get a very shallow depth of field. But I've also increased my ISO to about 500 in a lot of shots, which is higher than I normally want. But, you know, it's a full frame camera, the 5D4, so I think it can take it.
Okay, so that's an older camera. Obviously, the noise now is much better. You could probably even go up to 16, 24. And with the Lightroom with the noise reduction, you can even probably go up to 6,400 and still be able to get something nice. Okay.
I'm hand holding the camera. Because I'm hand holding the camera, I don't want to be using slower shutter speed, anything under really about 200th of a second. Otherwise, I will start to get that blur, particularly when you zoom in on those fine details. It does mean it can be quite tricky to shoot, particularly as you can see when I'm in areas under trees like this. It does get very dark and it's just very, very tricky to shoot handheld in areas like this. So instead, I'm trying to look more towards areas where the sun is getting in. It's a little brighter. But the other thing I've been trying a lot is doing some focus stacks handheld. I take my camera to burst mode and just turning that focus dial as I'm firing away. Now, I've not done this very often, and it can be a little tricky to get right, particularly again, if you're shooting at slower shutter speeds, because that movement can create some blur in your image. Hopefully, I can get it to work and get some decent shots with it.
Again, we have the advantage of having the focus stacking software or focus bracketing software in the camera. So even at the slower
Even hand holding
speeds,
it is all
yeah, you can blast those off pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yes,
Is burst mode the same as continuous?
yes.
It's the same button.
Yeah, yeah,
They just say different words.
Yeah.
Same button.
exactly, yeah.
Wix is your platform to perform on.
Been sitting here for ages now, watching this little blue fly. No idea what type of fly it is, but it keeps jumping around. I haven't seen anything move quite like it before, so I'm not quite sure what species it is. But it's very fast, very erratic, so it's very difficult to try and get a focus stack. So I'm trying my best by setting my camera to burst mode, keeping it on a fixed focus point, and then just sort of moving it in and out while I fire off lots of photos. As a result, I've probably taken hundreds of photos here in this little spot, just trying to get it in different angles. And basically, the more photos I take, the more likely it is that one of them is actually going to work. The fly seemed interested enough in these flowers to stay still for long enough for me to take this stack. And I really like how sharp the fly is here and how that helps it stand out from the background. But it definitely moved around too quickly for me to get many stacked shots. Although I did quite like how this one turned out. But that fast movement issue is something I found with this ladybird as well. I loved watching it walk over this leaf, but it was moving too quickly for me to shoot in a fast burst and get a proper stack. This is the nearest I got, and it's okay, but there are parts of it that the focus missed, and that's a bit of a shame. I'm sure that maybe those of you working with mirrorless cameras with really fast burst modes could get that shot, but my old 5D4 could not quite hack it. But I did try the technique on some other insects that were happy to spend a bit more time posing for me. And while the shots I got are certainly not world class, I am happy with them as nice shots from my walk in the trees. And as always, part of the joy of taking macro shots in the wild like this is simply getting out there and enjoying what the world has to offer.
I think he's gonna do his pitch now, so I guess that's probably enough of that. All right,
Definitely changing my perspective, but I like shooting macro, it got tiring dragging the tripod around and setting up.
mhm.
I'm gonna go try that.
Yeah, now when he was talking about moving in and out, obviously you only shoot when you're moving in and then you pull back and then do another burst. Don't shoot moving in and out because then your sequence is gonna be out of order. You want your sequence to go one direction. Okay, although you might get one going the other way if you're lucky, and then just reverse how you reverse the numbering once you get them, so that the closest one's always the top layer.
What is
One thing I'll point out when I've been doing it.
Hang on now.
the aperture bracket he was talking about? Was that right?
It was focus bracket, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, he kept everything consistent.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you always gotta keep your,
So when you're going out, you're shooting.
no, when you're going toward the image, you're
Yes,
shooting.
yes.
And when you're going out, don't. If you
So-
do, and you do it by accident, and it looks like it works, just reverse the numbers so that the last shot will be the first shot, because it's the first one going in. Because when the focus stacking software works, it goes from the closest to the furthest. You
So is that not when you start the stack over again then?
yeah, you just shoot again, just shoot another stack.
Okay.
Yeah,
But- so it's not the same.
so to get back to the first one with the hit rate, the more you shoot, the better your hit rate, the odds of getting it right's gonna be. But
you
again,
don't combine those stacks.
no, they're all separate. They're all like separate instances. It's like you're starting over again each time. And you don't combine them. Because they're gonna, they're not gonna, hand holding, they're gonna be off enough, but then when you start adding it from the next shot, you might be over here, or the bug might have moved, there's too many variables to try and combine them.
By hand holding it, the alignment Puts it all back together if you're off a little bit.
Yeah, it's got a tolerance to auto align to a certain point, but I mean, if one's here and one's over here, it's not gonna do it. You know, they've gotta be pretty close. That's why when you're in that burst mode or in your focus bracketing with the burst mode built in, like you have in your cameras, it's done. You're gonna move a little, but not,
The focus stacking mode is
Yeah.
faster than I think the shutter speed, because I think it locks it up.
yeah. Okay, Alan.
I was going to say, I don't have much time here because my battery's about to go, but one thing I would pass on before you go on to the next stack is put your hand in front of the camera and take one shot so you get a good separation of
It's a good idea. Yeah, just kind of cover the lens or something or,
yeah.
yeah. So you know you know when that one ends, because otherwise near Lightroom, they all look the same.
They don't have to be built.
Yeah, and if you're doing the same amount of bursts each time, you can start from the end of the sequence, all of them, and then just count back. Like if it's 5, you count back 5, and then usually I'll color it like green or red or something, and then I'll count back another 5 and color it. But yeah, if you have enough fortitude to do it beforehand while you're shooting, it's a lot easier to see it. It's a good idea. Thanks.
Okay, guys, I'm going to have to go here. So it was nice being with you again.
All right, we'll see you next time.
All right, take it easy.
Too. Take care. Bye-bye. Okay, anything else?
Or a lot.
All right.
Well, I think I hadn't thought about.
Yeah, let me stop sharing here and stop recording.